I was able to gain 100,000 followers more than that after that. And I am on the path to create a way better lifestyle for myself than before. And I don't think that I'd be able to confidently say that without Creator College, if I'm being completely honest.
You are the third person in a row to say the same exact line. This is not just a course. I don't know if you guys have been in a group chat together somehow.
I had no idea that they were being interviewed either. No talking before this.
It means the world because you're right. We called it Creator College with the very much intention of wanting to build a school.
I'm the biggest skeptic when it comes to buying courses. I have no regrets joining. Just know that you're going to get more than you expect. Like you said earlier in this call, you had a lesson plan for us, but you saw what we needed. And so you completely changed your lesson before the class even started. What course would do that other than this?
Sam, thank you so much for joining us for today's Spotlight. We wanted to bring you on because you're one of the exceptional students that we have for Cohort 1. It was an awesome experience to get to know you and to work with you closely. And I just want to first start off with some of your context prior to Creator College. I want to hear a little bit about what you were struggling at that point in time, because you actually had a decent audience size before joining. So what were currently your struggles? What were the experiences that you were looking forward to learning as a creator in general before Creator College was even on your mind to join?
So before Creator College, it was always, I was just content based because growing up, all I saw was content being pushed, and I was watching YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And it was something that I always felt drawn towards. So I just one day picked up a camera during quarantine, and I started recording because my sisters, they pushed me into it. I had no prior experience to filming, to editing, to any of that. And I decided, you know what, let me just try this out and see what I can do with it. I had no expectations going into it. And then I started, growing a following, and it started picking up a little bit faster and faster. And I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. But then you don't think about the other things that come with creating content. And when it becomes something that consumes more of your time and you want to be able to do it more as a full-time job, then you have to start thinking about monetization and all this stuff. So there was these thoughts in my mind before Creator College that I had no answers to, because there's nothing out there at the moment other than Creator College now that I saw was valuable enough that would help me kind of expand my audience, as well as learn a little bit more on the monetization side and business side. Because I think a lot of people think about content creation as is just picking up a camera, filming yourself, and not as a business. And so at some point it does become a business, and it's extremely fun, but it's also something that, can be life-changing. But at the same time, it also, you could just have a following and not be monetized at all or make any sort of money. So before Creator College, my thought process was like, how do I do this? And then after Creator College, once I saw you and I saw your videos, it was something about you in particular resonated with me well, because, you always have people reach out to you, especially when people start getting into the content creation space. People are always going to reach out to you saying like, I can make you this much money. I can make you this much money. But then they feel like they're just selling you rather than trying to help you. They're looking out for themselves more than you. And I got a different angle with you. It felt more like, okay, no, we're here to help you grow your audience, and the monetization will come through it, and we'll show you all the steps, but it's not the main thing. It's just a piece of the puzzle that's going to come together. So
I
after
love the way that you put that.
college, it was absolutely amazing. And my expectations were met for sure.
It's really interesting. You've pointed out quite a few problems that a lot of creators face introspectively that you're right from the external side. No one will ever know. One, it's the thought of how do you get the good engagement? Then how do you make sure that engagement even means something? How can you ensure that you bring that into an ecosystem in which you're able to captivate that audience even further and potentially build a business around a community that you love to serve? And that is not easy to do by any means because nobody teaches it. And I believe when you can build a personal brand the right way, you set yourself up for both. You set yourself up for good engagement, but you also set yourself up for an opportunity to monetize. And that's with your own products, that's with brand deals, etc. And I really do appreciate what you've just said in regards to the impression that you received for Creator College and for me personally, because when we were going through different accounts to make sure that everyone that comes through the cohort all have the same ambition, that they are going to fit into this winning environment, it was very much manual. And that's something that we wanted to do from the team's perspective. And when I went to your page and I saw everything that you're about, I'm like, okay, this is great. Like he's exactly what we want with inside the cohort group. And you've kind of shown that throughout the entire several weeks that you're about that, that not only that, you're supportive to other people. So I'm glad that I was right on my bed and I appreciate you saying that. In
Absolutely.
regards to particularly monetization, because that's actually an interesting lens to touch on. And we could touch about the content side too. Can we, let's say, pinpoint a few problems very specifically that you were encountering as a creator that people from the outskirts would not necessarily know? So was it based on, let's say, what is the next step? Was it to do a particular digital product? Is that what you really need to know? Or was that more based on, hey, what type of content should I be curating? Is it more based on particular content pillars? Like, what was it, the exact specific things that you were looking for? And then when you got into creative college that you were able to learn?
So when before Creator College, when it comes to like monetization and all of that, it was more along the lines of, okay, I've been able to make a certain amount of money maybe from views, but that doesn't necessarily, hold you over, and it's not consistent. It's not something that will come in on a regular basis. It's going to be something that is sporadic and you just feel it. One month you might do absolutely amazing. You might look and be like, wow, how did I do that? And then another month you might be like, well, I don't know if this is really for me anymore because it didn't it didn't really work out like last month. So when you are in this space and before you even get into this space, I don't think people realize. I think people just think, oh, well, you know, all these content creators are making so much money just by being a content creator and having all these followers. I think people equate, a number of following to like a dollar amount. So essentially, if you have over 250,000 followers, you should be bringing in over $250,000 a year. Like that's kind of what people's mindset was. It was my mindset when I first started content creation and I saw all these people and their big audiences. And then you start realizing that it doesn't come in as consistent as you want it. It's a little bit
Mhm,
more difficult. You have to start thinking about it as a business. So digital products were something that I struggled with. I didn't know one, maybe how to even curate a proper digital product. And then also, what is the content that I need to create to
mhm,
sell that digital product without coming off salesy? Because I think any good
mhm,
content creator doesn't get into content specifically for the money. But, obviously, the world that we live in, we have to think about monetization and you want to make this a living, but you also want to help as many people as you possibly can. So you want to give that. um, you want to be able to give enough value in your product. And it was something that I struggled with because I never thought that what I was giving was up to par with what I thought I should be giving. Um, and then you also start doubting yourself and you're like, well, am I worth this much money? Does someone want to pay me this much money? And then you start realizing, well, a lot of people are struggling. And if you're out there and you're helping them in a genuine manner and your product can really change people's lives, then you should be able to, charge what you think you're worth and then
mhm,
also be able to continue to grow and each year or each month, bring in a bigger audience, but make sure that your audience is tailored towards what you're actually trying to cultivate in the community. And then also, that community is going to be able to be the people that are the ones that are going to be buying your product. So you want to make sure that they're the right audience. I think a lot of people and even myself, before Creator College, I thought that any following was a great following. My number was great, so I was like, "That's okay. I have a great following." But then you start realizing you might be building a following on the wrong basis, and
mhm,
you might be building followers that don't necessarily care who you are or what you're preaching, but you might have had one great video that just either resonated with them or was funny, and then you start realizing that that's pretty important too to think about when you're creating content. So, Creator College helped kind of show me that and kind of open my eyes to you have to make sure that you're building and cultivating the community that you want and that you want to grow with. And, it's okay if you're losing followers. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going downhill. It just might mean that you are essentially building up your following the proper way this at this point. And it just takes some cleaning out to do.
You have hit the nail on the head for, I believe you said 6 or 7 or 8 different pain points that every creator faces when it comes to monetization. You've done that so beautifully in your own story. And one that really stood out to me was this idea of trying to monetize without feeling salesy. And that's a big one. And people don't necessarily realize that until they're in the space where people trust you and you're in that position of, how do I then monetize but not feel as if I'm a sellout? How do I ensure that the value is associated with what I'm delivering? How do you then ensure that your imposter syndrome doesn't get in the way? Because for the very first time, you are putting a dollar amount to your own value. No one ever does that in this
Mhm.
world. And now you're doing this at public scale. So, of course, you're going to go through all these different mental hurdles, but nobody talks about them. And when I was going through that experience, I felt the exact same way. And I would find myself in moments in which I felt really, 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 really insecure to sell anything, even at $10 or $15 or $20. Now we're able to do businesses that do significantly more of that. And we have incredible students like you that join and get the value that we are hoping to instill into them. And it's the journey of understanding, if you can provide value to your current existing audience online through, let's say, your Instagram page in your particular instance, you have an opportunity to really understand what it is of value to them. And then if you could provide deeper value in the sense where you're going, let's say, more specific in regards to a system that they need or protocol that they need, then of course for them, it's alleviating a huge problem. And you're able to then reward yourself and continues to build out a business that can even help further people. And the way that you've just defined that in your own story is so magical, because that's the hopefully the truth behind content creation, where you don't have to shy away from monetizing. Monetizing is powerful and it's one that you should fully embrace, but you can only do that if, one, you understand the content that you're producing, you understand the audience that you're serving, and you are getting at the feeling of, yes, you can have 2 million followers, 5 million followers, and literally not be able to sell anything. And I've seen that firsthand. And then we've seen creators that have 4,000 followers. We even have people within the cohort that had much smaller followings and were able to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars with their coaching businesses or with their own products, et cetera. And it's the thought process behind, if you could serve the right audience, then that's what you need. And you've just nailed that. And I'm so proud of you for recognizing it too, because it's not something necessary that we explicitly say. It's one that we hope that people can learn. And I'm so proud that you've been able to integrate that within your own systems as a creator now for the content and monetization sides. So once you were inside of the cohort, I don't know if you've ever been a part of any other cohorts in the past, or if you've ever been part of any type of program of this type of nature. I'm curious what you had expected from the actual cohort side, as in, did you know what the lessons were going to look like practically before our onboarding calls and things of that nature? And when you were inside of the cohort, and you were one of the most active in regards to showing up for the classes and participating, and you were always vocal, which we loved. Did that experience meet what you thought you were getting yourself into? I just want to hear everything from your perspective, so that people listening in can get an understanding of the Creator College cohort experience too.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever, when it comes to cohorts or anything of this nature of Creator College, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. The last thing I've experienced that was maybe similar was college. When I went to college and I
Mm,
got my degree, and we would be in, Zoom lessons, because especially when you're having an online course, that's what it felt like mostly. But it was a little bit different because it was a lot more engaging, and we obviously had lessons. So going into the Creator College, I didn't know necessarily what to expect, how the lessons were going to look, how we're going to be able to interact with the coaches, how we're going to be able to, talk to, the fellow peers in the group. But I just knew that it was going to be a cohort like, and it was going to be something of that nature, that we were going to all be on, a call and be able to talk. And, you guys made it very clear that we were going to have our voices heard and our questions
mm,
answered. So I wasn't worried about any of those things, or I wasn't worried if I was going to be able to get my money's worth. But I had no expectations going into it. And then, it kind of just blew me out of the water once we started. And, you guys start giving your lessons, and they're very in depth. Examples are shown. So it's not just, I hate my biggest thing when, learning is, a lot of people kind of get a little bit too distant with the knowledge, and they teach, but they don't show examples. And I think the best way to learn is seeing somebody else either fail or succeed, because that's the only way that you're really going to be able to learn anything, and you're going to be able to see it in action. Because sometimes it might make a little bit of sense to you, but you don't know how to actually execute
Mhm.
it. And then as soon as you see somebody else execute it, you're like, oh, wait, that gives me a great idea. And I think you guys also shown in the Creator College that it isn't necessarily copying anybody. As long as you're putting your own voice into your content, you're being able to use somebody else's content as a muse to yours and be able to give you ideas, and you can kind of jump off of that. And it
Mhm.
helps the whole, creator, environment just build from that, because now people are sharing their story through a format that essentially is, given already, and that just works. It's kind of, and that's what you guys have taught us. And so no expectations going in, but expectations were definitely met and exceeded once you joined, because we were able to have our voices heard, being able to talk to the coaches and ask questions. And then you guys, I know that you guys had a limit of time, but it always seemed like everyone was going over just because you wanted to help so much and be there for all the students that were there, because um, it was there's this genuine, you know, feeling of like you guys, we can see it, and we see it from you guys that you guys want to actually help us, rather than, this is just make quick money scheme that everyone kind of jokes around, and you see all these memes on social media
Yeah.
now about them, that it's, just buy my course. So if anybody ever thinks that Creator College is something of that nature, that should completely just be wiped out of their brain, because it isn't anything like that, and it isn't any like any course that I've seen. It truly is a college. It's Creator College. It is a college. You're building something that is more than what has been shown or taught to people, and there's definitely, lessons that people probably have no idea even you have to think about when you're creating content. And I think that's what I got from this cohort experience. And then obviously you see everybody else's wins as well. And we were able to jump off of each other and use, essentially kind of piggyback off of someone else's idea as well, and you can talk through it and kind of see what's a good idea. And being able to have the chat and the Discord as well, and you know people can see your wins and can see your struggles. And then I saw so many people interacting with not even just the coaches, but now the other peers, and they were talking about, oh, what do you think is a good idea? And maybe they were talking to you guys, but someone would chime in and be like, you know this might be a good idea, and they would try it out and it would work. So you aren't just getting, the coaches. Now you're getting a whole group of people that have the same mindset as you. And you'll notice, like, I try to be very active, because obviously, you put your money into this, so you want to be able to get the most out of it. And at the end of the day, someone might sign up for this and say, well, this wasn't for me, but then they really have to ask themselves, did they put the most effort into it? It's always everything that you do in life. It's people get upset that their content or their social media is not doing well. It's like, well, are you putting the effort and the consistency that you need to grow? So my view was, I'm going to give this my 100%, because obviously from the beginning, I saw that it was going to work, and you guys were giving all the answers that needed to be given. I was like, now this is on me. Now I have to be the one to take advantage of this and, utilize every lesson that I've learned, and be able to iterate and fail, and then learn from my failures, and then succeed, and hopefully, and kind of go from there. So, yeah, I think that's kind of been what I've learned from the cohort experience. And I think it's a really good. I was a little skeptical too, because obviously, like, you never know if you're going to be able to, speak or get to talk, or it might be just very distant because there's so many people. But it works. It works very well.
You are the third person in a row, and we've done now Simone, we did Ricky, to say the same exact line, which is, "This is not just a course." And I don't know if you guys have been in a group chat together, somehow saying that together, but you guys are saying the exact same line.
Yeah,
And
I had no idea that they were being interviewed either. So we had no talking before this.
and it means the world, because you're right. We called it Creative College with the very much intention of always, always, always wanting to build a school. And I always thought that the best schools, if you were to compare it to Harvard, for example, Harvard for Creators, where even there you don't just entrust one professor to teach the way that they do it only, right? That would never make any sense, because content is so diverse, it's so dynamic, and there's going to be multitude of ways to have success. And I'm the first one to admit that I do not have as much knowledge as Sean Hanif, one of the best people in the digital product space, of course. And it's so important that we have people like him on the team. Yes, he comes in with a completely different experience, but we need that experience to help you guys understand digital products at the greatest scale. We have people like Shatika, we have people like Molly and Nellis. Nellis just literally worked on the YouTube channels of the largest creators. And when I look at that and holistically, I never really said that aloud, but for you guys to be tuning in and saying it's not just a course, but it's a more comprehensive education experience where you have the opportunity to learn from different variety of perspectives and systems and still be able to implement and have success. That was always the ultimate goal internally. So I do appreciate you so much saying that. And you also mentioned this thought process between what a lesson is and a workshop is, and how basically every single day you would have traditional lessons. But then moreover, in the workshops is where you get an opportunity, which is also hosted daily, to come and speak on stage, quote unquote, virtual stage. You have an opportunity to introduce your problems. And that's the greatest difference, I believe, in terms of what a self-paced course looks like versus what Creator College, the education platform, plus the cohort experience is like, because you have the opportunity to receive that daily feedback. And that helps us too. It doesn't just help our students, but it helps us know where we have to tailor particular conversations or where we have to tailor particular lessons. I remember very much I was sitting and I was reading through your Discord message. I was reading through quite a bit. I believe that night was like 70 or 80 different Discord messages I had to get through. But in that, it was so obvious what you guys needed help with, which was understanding what you just talked about, which is an evergreen reservoir of inspiration, or how do you study content. And I remember overnight, it was the thought of, I have to change my slides because I know this is what's going to be more beneficial for the group. So we did. And that was probably one of my favorite classes I've ever hosted because all of you guys were super engaged. And then you came out of it understanding exactly what you just said, which is studying content with the right lens. It's not you copying content. It's you understanding that something is structurally worked algorithmically. Great. Let's combine that with our creator vision, our uniqueness value. Let's put that together and have a unique piece of content that has its highest likelihood for success. And you're putting all of this, and it's almost as if my voice has now been embedded in your brain because you're repeating. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, he said that better than I did. I wish that I said it like that during the classes. So I do appreciate everything that you had said. And then you also mentioned something that's really, really, really important, which is what the code environment looks like for other students. And we have been so surprised because we do our very best job to find the right group of people and to put them in a winning environment. But you guys hit it off with each other in regards to friendships and building that accountability where you're right, where one creator would have success. And it was never the thought of, I don't like the fact that that person's having success. It was the idea of that creator actually goes back to you guys and say, hey, here's some inspiration because this has worked well for me. And then it's a flood of different successes and different conversations that you open up. And if something doesn't work for someone else, then you're learning from each other. And I'm curious from your perspective, and I know that you touched on it, in that friendships that you're building with other creators, what does that mean for someone as like you, where as a creator, you don't necessarily have always the local community. I didn't have that. Like I didn't have my first 3, 4 years, any creators to look around me. I was in Philadelphia in biomedical engineering buildings. I had nobody. And then you guys now have this group where you share the similar problems, you share the similar wins and things of that nature. So what did it feel like to be part of the group of creators that were in cohort one?
So being a part of a group like cohort one definitely was such a different experience than what I've experienced with content creation as well. Like you said, you didn't have anybody in the beginning when you were starting your content journey. And I can say the same thing. I don't have anybody around me in my space who understands what it takes to be a content creator, what it takes to, make videos and uh, how this is a full-time job. And so it sometimes feels lonely. Like it really just it's the hard truth, but people glamorize content creation and it is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but there are moments when you don't have other people around you who kind of share the same and similar beliefs or, ideas. Gets a little bit where you kind of get in your head and you can start, second guessing yourself whether you should be doing this or if this was even a good video. And so being able to have all these people that are in the same space that are trying to do the same thing that want the same success was completely like life changing really because now you have a group of people who can be there and support you, and now there's a countless of people that I've followed from the cohort
Mm.
just on social media, and we'll have conversations. And there's actually one we had a conversation, and you know we talked about a video idea for him, and hopefully now he said that he's going to start doing it. Um, and it's a little bit of like a series that he can go from. So being able to have that and like work off of other creators and kind of see what is working for them and kind of tell them, what you're struggling with, and just to make sure that you kind of are on the same page and that it's
Mhm.
okay. That's what you're going to feel right now, but you got to keep pushing through it. And it just reminds you, regardless of whether it's, motivational that they're giving you or some tips and tricks, it's just nice to have other people there for you in that space. And I definitely didn't go into creator college expecting to have that experience with the cohort. Obviously, I knew that you guys were pretty selective on who you were choosing to make sure that everyone had the same type of drive and goals. And it wasn't just, we want to go extremely viral as fast as we possibly can, which I did enjoy, but I didn't think that it was going to relate in, new friendships and also just people that you can kind of talk to and relate to. So that was definitely something that was unexpected, but very, you know, very nice. It was a really good thing that came out of creator college, I think.
And the way you've put that is so real for other people because others may see the number of 100 cohort students and believe I won't have an opportunity to stand out or I won't be able to fit in. I can't believe there's other creators that are much larger than me. They're probably going to get all the attention. But you said something really cool, which is the fact that actually the creators at the different stages help because you have a garnering of different perspectives. And what may work for one creator is not always guarantee work for another creator, but the willingness to share ideas and you're obviously one of the larger creators in terms of that intermediate group. And you had the opportunity to go back and talk to the other creators and say, hey, check this out in regards. And that's so special. The fact that you just gave someone a serious idea that doesn't happen. And the fact that you went out of your way to do that for someone else and leave an impact on them. And therefore it's no surprising on our end when we hear compliments that we hear about you, Sam, particularly. But that's the whole idea of being, as you've put it, selective around the people that join, where we do just want everyone to feel comfortable. We want everyone to come in with the right type of ambitions and goals. If you're coming in to try and understand that this is a quick way to do a cash grab on your end, I have no problem saying that we're not the right fit because then your attitude and energy will reflect in the group and that will be negative pull for everyone. So we will, I believe, always be this way where we want the right people because we understand that 100 people is a lot. And we want everyone to feel as though that they're safe and they want everyone to feel like they can participate and they can still earn and grow as creators. And I just love the way that you put that because it's like music to my ears that we've hopefully done a good job for cohort one. Hopefully we can do a good job for future cohorts as well. With that all being said, Sam, tell me more then in regards to what were your particular wins? When you look back at your cohort one experience, I'm sure the relationships that you've built, I'm sure just the dynamics that you've been able to formulate even with us inherently in and of itself has helped you as a creator better understand with a different perspective. But if we were to understand some of your wins for the outside world that is looking in and watching you right now, can you speak to some of them? What were some of the wins from cohort one?
Absolutely. And so I think there's a there's a few wins that I so there was a bunch of wins that we get from creative followers. I think any creator can say, and it doesn't always happen to be the views. So
Hmm.
I think that a lot of people might come in thinking, well, my win is going to be me, going viral or getting some great videos. I had maybe 1 or 2 videos do really, really well, compared to my past videos, and I say that because it wasn't in the content that I normally created, so
Hmm.
that was a win for me. Obviously, you know what content works for you, but being able to kind of switch up how people say your niche, when, you should be the niche, but being able to change a video type and still getting the views that you want and you're looking for and even exceeding that, that's definitely a win. And I was able to see that, which was really nice because honestly, it's one of the scariest things to do is to transition content type when
Hmm.
you're a content creator and you have been creating content for so long in one space. And my space was fitness. So being able to kind of get out of that and realize like there's a lot more that I can do to help, especially with mental health, health and especially with mental health and all the stuff that I've gone through in my past and being able to help other people with that. And then I think the biggest win though that I got was being able to look at content differently. It no longer was okay, like let me just look for viral ideas. How do I which I always struggled with and I've always talked about anybody, all my friends who I've ever spoken to about content, you can go back to them and ask them. I would always be like, I just need to figure out how to build a community around the content that I'm creating because it's nice to be able to have like-minded people that are following you that be able to push each other and you see in the comments, that you're actually making a difference in their lives. And if you just have a following again and you're not getting any engagement and your videos aren't really resonating with people, then the content, it's great and the views are cool, but it doesn't necessarily mean much.
Mhm,
So being able to learn how to, like you said, put our uniqueness into videos and being able to realize, our true plan and be able to map out our plan so that we can create content more tailored to what our visions are and what is more unique to us and what our goals are and be able to share our pain points and our story. Um, I never in a million years thought about content like that. I always just thought, let me think about the best idea for the video that's going to go viral or that's going to help me get the most views and the most eyeballs on there. And, you know, I also learned that there's a process of posting sometimes that it doesn't have to be like set this way, but it's nice to be able to have content that attracts people into your
mm,
page, and then also content that nurtures those same followers. And then you can start building from there, and that's how you can start monetizing a little bit easier. And then that it isn't a bad thing to monetize your following. It isn't a bad thing to start looking to, sell products as long as you are creating something that is worth giving and gives value to the person and that you're not just doing it for a get quick rich scheme. And it's actually something that you want because your name is the most important thing and your, who you are and how you come off to people is very important and it's super easy to kind of mess that up. But as long as you are cultivating content in the right way and you're a genuine person, and I think those were the biggest wins that I got. It
mm,
wasn't even you know, the views or anything like that. I think that's great, but I came out of Creator College with a different viewpoint on what I need to be doing to be able to build the following that I want and the longevity I want in this space. Everyone thinks that, you have a timeline and you got to make sure that you once you hit your virality like you got to make sure that you really lock in at that point, sell as much as you can, make as much money as you can, and then at some point you're just going to have a downfall. And I learned that that's not the case, that you can continuously grow and change. And um the other big thing was, and I never looked at it this way, was there was a lot of smaller creators that were aspiring creators in the group that would get discouraged because, they would create a video and it wouldn't get crazy views that they were looking for. Obviously, that's what people will want. And it is something that will come as long as you're consistent, but they weren't looking at it in they weren't looking at it in the lens of, okay, I only have 20 followers, but this video just got 2,000 views and I never thought about it that way. Even to this day, like now I'm starting to see that like, oh, I have more views than following. That's amazing. That's something that I couldn't even imagine. Like, how does that even happen? Because, it just doesn't make sense. But you don't see it in that way because sometimes you get caught up in the whole, well, it didn't go viral and like it didn't do absolutely amazing. And you have to realize like it's a stepping stone to get to that point where you're consistently making great content that is getting the eyeballs that you want. And you are also building your following and building a following, the right following is consistent work and also takes a little bit of time because you'll start noticing if you look at your analytics, which again, another win that I got from here is that I never looked at my analytics before this. I always, again, I always created content, looked at the views. If the views weren't good, I was like, that was a bust of a video. But after this, I said, okay, let me look at my analytics. And I noticed that even on some of these videos that didn't do absolutely amazing, I was still bringing in followers from it. So it resonated with a few people. And I think that's more important than having a one off video that is maybe 2 million views that bring in 20,000 followers, but those 20,000 followers don't necessarily know you. They're just there because of one piece of content that you created. So now you might not create a piece of content that they enjoy after that. You don't know. But those were the wins that I got. And I really want to highlight that it wasn't views that I was getting. It wasn't that, you're getting more engagement. It was the way to look at it to be able to be long term in this space and not get discouraged by what you see in front of you. Sometimes it doesn't always what you see is not always what it is. It's a little bit more than that, and you have to kind of dive deep into it. And the lessons that you guys gave, um, and then also, yeah, the friendships that you kind of built through it. And now that you can leave this and have connections that you didn't think that you'd have before. So those were the bigger wins to me than the views and any of that.
You mentioned two really, 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 really important elements to the creator experience in general, which is one, that at different stages of creatorship, it looks so different. And what we hope to do, and you were using the words for it, aspiring, intermediate, and advanced. And we had quote unquote categorized creators in these buckets. So between anywhere from 0 to 10,000 to 10,000, 100,000, 100,000 plus, for that exact reason, meaning that yes, there are going to be overlaps in regards to what are the content strategies and the system behind it. But per your particular stage, you're going to need something completely different than a creator that has 5,000 followers, or it has let's say, just beginning and has 50 followers, as you had mentioned. And even the thought process that you had just uncovered for everyone, which is if you are in the beginning stages and you're getting more views than you do have your current existing audience, that's huge. It's a huge win to track. And then if you are, let's say, an intermediate creator at your stage, you mentioned another big win, which was how do you filter out the wrong audience and how do you ensure that they're sticking around for the right reasons, right? Like, what good does it do if you keep building a number next to your name if, let's say, your business doesn't increase, or the actual fulfillment that you have in the creation of your content isn't there? And you recognize that early on and say, you know what? I need to figure out the right audience. I need to go back to the drawing board and understand, let me build the foundations the right way. Let me have the right content pillar so that when I do increase in follow, because you will, because you have everything that it takes, that you have the opportunity then to ensure that it's scaling for the right reasons. And that gives you, and I think every clarity that you could have as a creator, right? The idea that as long as I do this next thing as a creator, no matter which stage that I'm in, then I will be in a good position. And that's the clarity I think that I was looking forward to. And the way that you've described is that we have hopefully done that for each of the creators at their different stages, which is fantastic. You had also mentioned this thought process behind, and I can tell you a little bit about how I felt about you coming in just on a personal level, because we had exchanged conversation in the very beginning and I had seen your content. And for me, I'm looking at two different things. I'm looking at your skill set of creation to understand, is there a foundation to build upon? Or is there an element to you that's unique enough that I see that you're trying to put into the world? And when I first saw your content, for me, it was the packaging of your content. I thought, okay, he knows what he's doing. He obviously, I didn't know that you picked up a camera in COVID, but during this experience, I thought you were really good at what you did. And therefore, I had reached out to you. But the conversation that we had opened my eyes completely, because you were talking about the different experiences that you were going through. You were talking about the hardships that you had just gone through. And I thought, oh my goodness, I relate to you much more than I thought I was going to. And that's why when you joined, it was immediately the idea of the creator vision. Can we tap into your uniqueness profile? Can we start to understand what are your pain, your passions? And obviously, as a creator, you dictate how much you want to show for that. But you were so eager to think, I didn't even know that content could be like that. I thought I had to choose just fitness. But then what you end up doing is now creating content that's more akin to you and actually a meaning that you hold deeper in your heart. And now when people are reaching out to you, they're not saying, and this isn't bad by any means, but hey, how do you do this particular exercise? They're asking you questions about life. Like they're asking you questions about, hey, I'm going through this hardship too. And how did you get through it? Or you are telling them, hey, maybe it doesn't look so perfect. And you're like literally building an established community and you're talking about this in real time in just a short period. And I'm just so proud of you on a personal level for doing that, because it also takes a level of trust and faith from the creator side to think, you know, I am going to let myself be seen a bit more. I am going to get rid of the filter. I'm going to be a little bit more present in my content. But the magic, the beauty that comes from it is wonderful. I remember too when I was really struggling to tell the story about my parents divorcing and my mom leaving overnight when I was in 8th grade of middle school, and how that completely made my childhood something different than I could have ever imagined. imagined. And I struggled to say that story until about 3 years in. And once I started talking about it, I'm like, oh, wait, there's quite a lot of people out there in the world that had divorced parents, but unexpected divorces and were struggling because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And I would have never been able to serve that community without that thought. And yes, it took me 3 years to uncover it. For you, it took you a lot. You were much braver than I was just to go from the get go to speak through your story. But it was that thought process that I thought was so imperative. And I'm so grateful that you've discovered it in that realm. And now you've like established the foundation for what it takes to build a personal brand. So well done. And everything that you're doing,
Thank
I
you.
believe you are such a shining example of a creator that was willing to do the hard work and was willing to say, and I have to do the exact same thing at times and say, we have to be humble enough to discredit the number next to our name. So there are moments and seasons in which we sit down as a team and say, June, you have to lose 200,000 followers. You have to lose X amount of followers because the thought process it's not the right audience. We were able to serve them at a period and season of our lives, but no longer anymore is that the type of content you want to produce. So it's okay that you can't serve them now. And you're recognizing that already. And you're saying, I have to build the audience right and establish the community. Well done, Sam. I'm so unbelievably
Yeah.
proud of you. If you were to say to somebody on the fence of joining Creative College, the cohort, and they're perhaps in this period of, I know I want to create content. I know that I need to get better, but maybe I'm not necessarily so sure about a cohort, or maybe I'm not necessarily sure about Creative College. What would you tell somebody on the fence to get them involved with hopefully what was a good experience for you?
So if somebody was on the fence right now with Creator College, joining Creator College, or just understanding it, I would tell them, well, the first thing is just take the leap of faith and do it. Don't think about it too much. Take the leap of faith and go in, especially if you know that content creation is something that you really want to pursue. And if it's something that you want to pursue, even if you don't have any followers, you have don't even have an account on Instagram or TikTok or any of this, and you're just gonna start, I still think it's very beneficial because I always talk to people that come up to me either at the gym or out in public, and they'll ask like, "How do I start creating content?" And I'm like, "Well, you just one have to start creating." And I said, "But the most important thing now is making sure that you're building the audience correct. Make sure that
Mm,
you're building your audience in a way that you want to cultivate people around you, people that are more like minded like you, and don't just go for it for the virality and just because it doesn't really mean much. And I think that what if I could honestly, it would have been so beneficial for me if I had Creator College when I first picked up a camera because it would have saved me a lot of pain points that I had to go through and had to learn. And there was definitely down moments in when I was creating content, and I would just think like, this I don't know if this is for me, and I don't really know. But in those moments, it was the moments that I was, you know, losing followers, but I never had the mindset of I had to lose followers to be able to gain the right audience. And
mhm,
so, surprisingly enough, I think it was about a year and a half ago, I actually lost maybe 15,000 followers. And in that time, I was so down on myself. But then following that, I said, you know what, let me take a step back and let me just continue and let me just create. And I was able to gain again. I ended up passing like 100,000 followers more than that after that, which is something that back then even I didn't understand even what happened right there. But with Creator College, you have the ability to now speak to people who are more experienced and more advanced than you. So you can know that before you even walk into any type of situation like that and be okay and be certain that you're going to be fine. Like it's always going to be okay. You just need to keep pushing and keep iterating and keep getting better. And what I really liked about Creative College is it's essentially having mentors that are there to help you.
mhm,
And listen, I'm the biggest skeptic when it comes to buying courses, when it comes to um, joining things that cost maybe a lot of money for certain people. And I would always be on the fence. And for some reason, I'm telling you, it really was, you and then also seeing the team for some reason I was like, I'm gonna take a chance on this. Like I'm just gonna do it because I have faith that it's gonna work. And I have no regrets joining. It exceeded my expectations. So anybody on the fence, just know that you're going to get more than you expect. You're going to get people that are there. Like you said earlier in this call, that uh, you had a lesson plan for us, but you saw what we needed, and so you completely changed your lesson before the class even started. And what course would do that other than this? I know I know countless of people that would just be like, "Well, I already had this one set, so I'm just gonna keep doing it." They don't necessarily listen to what the people are looking for, and I think that's where, people have some sort of, where they just kind of are standoffish towards courses or, things like this, but this one is not like that at all. It is extremely engaging. It is extremely beneficial. You come out with a different mindset, and again, your wins might not be views. And I say that strictly because, you don't want to go in with these expectations of, I'm going to get a million views on every video after I
Mhm.
post and after I learn all this stuff. But you will come out with the mindset of, okay, I am continuously growing and I am on the path to create a way better lifestyle for myself than, before. And I don't think that I'd be able to confidently say that without creator college, if I'm being completely honest. Again, the doubts that creep into your mind as a creator, and especially anybody who is maybe they're not an aspiring creator and now they're an intermediate creator and they're like, well, I've done it this far. It still, you can always grow. You can always grow. And then you start seeing these creators who fall off and you stop seeing them and their content isn't doing as well. And then you kind of wonder why, but it's because they're not continuously learning or continuously trying. But you learn this in creator college and how to do it, how to change, and how to, continuously keep your same content that you were doing before, but now iterating in a different way and telling your story a
Mm.
different way. So a lot of things that I don't think a lot people might think about when they're joining this, they might just see, the price tag and, you know, just the coaches. You're going to get so much more than just that. And it's going to be so beneficial. Um, and I think that I have no regrets from joining Creator College.
You are one of the most humble people that I've ever met because you waited to the very end of this to then speak about some of the numeric achievements that you've had that people would only dream of ever having. And it's a shining example of what we hope to get into the heads of every creator that joins Creator College, which is everything that you've outlined. That, yes, externally and everyone online is going to say this is how you get your first X amount of money or your first X amount of followers. And one, if they're guaranteeing you something, you know that that is fake. But moreover, the thought process about how it's so different, like at every creator stage, at every particular goal for a creator, for how long you've been doing it, it requires something different out of that creator at that period of time. That's what we hope that those creators inside of the cohorts experience firsthand, where yes, there's a creator X that's doing something, but it's because they are in a completely different place than the creator that's doing Y. But then ultimately, the whole goal is to eventually get to somewhere where you can build something that's fulfilling to you. And you're doing that. And the way that you've described it is so different from Simone and Ricky, but all of you had this opportunity to then become a better creator in the pursuit that you had. And I'm so, 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 so proud of you. Sam, where can everyone find you as this gets posted? And I want everyone to notice who you are and what you're about and everything that you have to offer into this world because it goes way beyond fitness. It's everything to do with who you are. I want them to be able to follow you. So where can they find you on your socials?
Absolutely. So on Instagram and TikTok, it is both sam.zaka, Zakka. And on YouTube, it's just Sam Zaka. I post on all platforms. And like you said, it's a lot more than fitness. I'm starting to realize that there's a lot more to share. And if you are a creator trying to aspire, go into content creation with the mindset of I am doing this to help somebody else, maybe somebody in the position that you were a few years ago. Maybe you were just going through the journey right now and you are sharing it. I don't think people realize how important it is to have somebody else on the other side knowing that they're going through some of the same situations that you are. And like you said, the numbers don't necessarily mean much to me. The goal is to just help as many people as I possibly can. And I have realized that with, events that have transpired in my life recently and how I've been able to kind of handle them and move forward from them. So just know that, if this is something that you're looking for, I highly recommend, pursuing it. And I just want to say thank you to you guys and thank you to Creator College for being there for us. And, again, always just constantly helping us. And, it never felt like we were taking your time. It just felt like you guys wanted to be there and help. So, you've completely just changed my whole mindset on everything in the best possible way. And I hope that my content from here on out can show that and can just reach those people that are looking for, have the same pain points that I do and can help them grow and know that they're not alone in any situation. There's other people out there that are feeling the same exact way, even if you think that your situation is extremely, and it might be very unique to you, but there are people that are in similar situations that might be able to help you with what you're going through. And just having people in a community is probably the biggest win that you can have. Money's great, but community is better.
And that's a wrap for today's Creator Spotlight. Sam, thank you again so much for joining us.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation and being able to share my story with Creative College. And listen, I'm I'm continuing on. So if anybody doesn't think that I actually enjoyed it, I am continuing on with Creative College. So
Well, Sam, seriously, thank you so much.